Welcome to the Calorie Myth. So have you ever been told that to lose weight, you just need to eat less and exercise more? Well, how's that worked out for you? For some people, sometimes it does the trick. But many of us find ourselves on a vicious cycle of losing weight, losing weight, and gaining weight. Well, there's some really good reasoning for that. And in his book called The Calorie Myth by Jonathan Baylor, published in 2014, he outlines a bunch of this research that really explains why just simply eating less and exercising more really is kind of bad advice. So let's start with this study. In June 2011, doctors at the University of North Carolina discovered that the number of calories consumed by people each day between 1997 and 2006, so over a span of almost 20 years, the amount of calories we ate increased 570 calories a day. So you might be thinking, wow, well, if on average that's what people have increased, no wonder people are gaining weight, right? Except that means we should have gained 476 pounds. That's probably not real accurate for most of us. So what's really going on, and why do we think that it is as simple as what we put in and what we burn is going to produce weight loss? We are a very complex set of systems. And so the simplicity of just what is often called just calorie math ends up being incorrect in lots of ways. And so hopefully this will help you understand this a little bit more. Another thing that we're also taught is that just because that we're moving less, we're not exercising as much, we're not as active as we used to be. So that's why everybody's gaining weight. Well, there's this thing called the set point. And researchers at the University of Washington cite the role of this set point system, or this complex control system in the brain that adjusts the calories in our bodies that we take in and expend in the short and long term. So here it is in its full definition. Our set point is determined by a series of hormonal signals released from our gut, our pancreas, and our fat cells. Yes, your fat cells give off hormones, which travel to the hypothalamus in your brain. And then the brain regulates how much we eat, how many calories we burn, and how much body fat we store in the long term through various hormones, neurotransmitters, and chemicals such as serotonin, leptin, and ghrelin. So I really like this quote from Dr. Eric Westman. He says, calories count, but that doesn't mean you need to count them. So let's unpack this a little bit. Our genes, our brains, and our hormones work together to maintain homeostasis. And homeostasis is just simply wanting to stay as is. We want to stay in a state of balance. We don't want big swings in calorie intake, in insulin, in hormones of any kind. So our body wants to stay in this nice place of balance. And so we have all these different systems in place to help our bodies stay there. So insulin is a big key player in body fat. It's produced in the pancreas, and through interaction with our cells and our brains, it tells us whether we are storing or burning fat. If you keep insulin at a nice, easy level in your body will continue to just use it as it needs and not store excess fat. But if there's a huge spike in your insulin because of that box of cookies you ate, none of us would ever actually eat a whole box of cookies at once, I'm sure. That's going to spike insulin. So a rush of sugar, some really simple, fast-burning carbohydrates in our system spikes our insulin. And when our body has more than we need, it doesn't have a place to put all those sugar molecules, it ends up storing them as fat. It says, okay, it's excess, store as fat. And then there's leptin. which is produced by our body fat. And it's through that interaction with our gut and central nervous system, and it regulates how much food we eat and how much energy we burn. So our fat cells are telling us either to eat more or eat less. And the interesting thing is when we eat more carbohydrate-rich foods higher in sugars, that actually makes us want to eat more in the long run. It seems a little counterintuitive, but that is how it works. And then there's this whole new line of research called the microbiome, and that's looking at the bacteria within our body. And we're actually made up of more bacteria than we are cells. And particularly, the microbiome is looking at the bacteria in our digestive system and how that speaks to the rest of our body. Because yes, it speaks to the rest of our body. So you've probably heard about probiotics or prebiotics even, things that help us improve our digestion. Well, they have discovered certain bacteria in our bodies, in our gut, will actually tell our body to store fat. So it kind of will bypass the regular systems we have in place and just tell us to store fat. So staying in a place of balance, not just in our hormones and in the food we eat, but also in our microbiome, is what really helps us stay in a place of health. So here's the deal. This is an incredible study done by Mayo Clinic, and they found that high quality foods produce a hormonal reaction that actually reduces our set point, that place of balance, calorie balance that our body wants to be, that makes us want to actually eat less, weigh less, all of those kinds of things. And so what they did is they fed people 1,000 extra calories a day for 8 weeks. And they controlled what kind of calories they were. Okay, so look carefully at this chart. Clogged unhealthy eating is just that, right? Fast foods, processed foods, things that we know are not good for us. Unclogged clean eating are foods that are fresh, foods that are high in vegetables, clean proteins, the things that you know that are good for you, cooked healthy, that kind of thing. And they found some really amazing differences. Calories burned daily, let's just start there, decreased 100 calories for those eating unhealthy. Those eating healthy increased by 630 calories. That's a workout. That's a huge difference. So how about just digesting your food? Because it takes calories to digest our food. So the calories needed to just digest the food in unhealthy eating only increased by 28 calories. But by eating clean food, which means your body is taking out all kinds of good nutrients out of it and putting it to use in your body, increased by 256 calories. So then calories burned via unconscious activity. Thinking, right? Actually decreased 98 calories per day when you're eating unhealthy. Some people think of this as brain fog. You know, if you are having days when you're like, oh, I just can't think that well, I can't process, look at what you're eating because it could be affecting it. Where if you're eating clean and healthy, it increased 692 calories. That's remarkable. So the total daily response, if you are eating unhealthy throughout the day, you're actually going to burn 170 calories fewer total than if you were eating a clean diet. You actually end up burning 1,300 more calories in a given day. That's darn amazing in my world. So let's keep going. So let's talk about this thing called My Plate. We had a food pyramid. We moved it to My Plate. So where did these dietary guidelines start? Where did they come from? Well, not from science. They were actually designed by a Senate Select Committee on Nutrition and Human Needs to do two things: increase carbohydrate consumption and reduce overall fat. Why did they want to do this? Well, in part, they did want to follow research, but they really jumped to conclusions. They looked at some research done at the University of Minnesota by Ansel Keys, where he had looked at seven countries. But the problem with that is he really looked at 21 countries and only used 7 to form his conclusions, which said that fat makes you fat. And he was really good at promoting this concept that fat makes you fat, except there was no scientific proof behind it. It was just from looking at these 7 countries and the way people ate. Scientists really objected to this. They said, this is way too soon. Our research is not proving this out to be true, and they can't make this relationship correlate. But the Senate committee decided that it was time to get out these dietary guidelines, and they went with Ansel Keys's promotion of fat makes you fat. And here we are, all these years later, living out the consequences of those decisions. Both the American Medical Association and the University of Wisconsin at that time said these are not scientifically sound. And there's PubMed research that backs that up. So what do we do? Well, to start, think about what we're eating. Think about the choices we're making. And think about the ways that you want to live out your life and how to do that in its fullest so that you can be the person you are called to be. Thanks.